There is a whisper in the fabric of existence, a silent assurance that everything you have ever longed for is already on its way to you. Life is not withholding your desires. It is preparing the perfect stage for their arrival. Every thought, every feeling, every belief you carry is shaping the world you see. When you tune yourself to the frequency of what you desire, you begin to feel its presence long before it manifests. This is the language of the universe, an unspoken promise that what is meant for you cannot be lost, delayed, or denied. When you believe it is already yours. The universe does not operate on struggle or force. It responds to faith and inner alignment. The moment you shift from waiting for your blessings to living as if they are already here, a powerful energy awakens within you. You no longer chase, you no longer doubt, because you realize that the power to create has always been within your own mind. The universe reflects back to you exactly what you hold true in your imagination. If you can feel the joy of already having it, the universe has no choice but to deliver it. It is a law as certain as the rising of the sun. Many people believe they must wait for signs or circumstances to prove that their dreams are possible, but this is the greatest mistake. The proof is already within your consciousness. You must dare to see yourself living the life you desire, even when everything around you suggests otherwise. Do not wait for the world to confirm your belief. Instead, let your belief reshape the world. The universe cannot deny the vision of a mind that refuses to accept anything less than what it has already claimed as its truth. Your desires are not random. They are planted in you by the very intelligence that created this universe. If something calls to your heart, it is because it is already yours in the unseen realm. The delays you perceive are not denials, but preparations. Just as the seed must rest beneath the soil before it breaks into the light, your dreams are growing silently, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal themselves. Trust this process, for the universe has a divine sense of timing that is always aligned with your highest good. Every day you are shaping your future by what you choose to dwell on. Speak as if it has already happened, walk as if it is already done, and think as if you are already living the life you desire. This is how you call the unseen into the seen. When your inner world is filled with certainty, the outer world must reflect it. The universe is saying to you right now, everything you have asked for is coming. Your only task is to believe it so deeply that no doubt can survive in your mind. The universe mirrors your inner belief, not your outer struggle. You can fast, toil, plead, and push against the world with all your might, yet if the picture you hold of yourself on the inside is small, unworthy, doubtful, or deprived, life will simply echo that image back to you. Circumstances are not dictators, they are reflections. The drama you see around you is not the cause of your state, but the effect of it. When you understand this, you stop wrestling with shadows and begin to reshape the light that casts them, your own consciousness. The loudest prayer you ever make is the silent assumption you live with day after day. You might tell yourself you believe in abundance, yet if you secretly rehearse stories of lack, expectation of failure, or fear of rejection, the universe listens to the deeper voice, the one that lives beneath the words, your state of being. There is a subtle but decisive difference between wanting something and believing you already are the kind of person to whom that thing belongs. Wanting keeps you in a perpetual state of distance. I want is a confession that I do not have. The mirror of reality cannot show you possession while you are insisting on lack, but when you assume, embody, and feel from the end, when you walk, speak, and think as though the desire is already fulfilled, you cross an invisible line. You shift from a state of pursuit to a state of possession, and the universe, obedient and precise, rearranges itself to validate your inner claim. This is not arrogance. It is alignment. It is the realization that consciousness is the only creative power, and that the outer world is compelled to follow its instructions. People often mistake activity for power. They imagine that if they do more, push harder, stay up longer, grind with more intensity, then life will reward their struggle. But the universe is not impressed by strain. It is moved by conviction. A single moment of absolute inner acceptance, where you decide with finality that you are already who you choose to be, can accomplish what years of frantic effort cannot. The world is not a machine you bend into your shape. It is a mirror that obediently renders whatever image you present to it. Change the self you believe yourself to be, and your world will reflect the transformation with mathematical certainty. This is why the same pattern keeps repeating for so many. The names change, the jobs change, the partners change, the cities change, but the script inside remains the same. You cannot outrun the tone of your inner conversation. You take it with you into every interview, every relationship, every opportunity. If you secretly fear abandonment, you will behave in ways that produce it. If you believe money is rare, you will unconsciously sabotage every chance to receive it. If you assume people don't value you, you will filter their every action through that lens and eventually provoke the very disregard you dread. The universe is not punishing you, it is answering you. It is not cruel, it is consistent. It keeps bringing you versions of the self you insist on being. To reverse this, you must become ruthlessly loyal to a new inner image. Begin by watching your mental diet. Notice the habitual phrases you tell yourself in quiet hours. Catch the subtle predictions of failure you smuggle into casual conversations. Pay attention to the way you feel after you imagine a future scene. Does your body tighten? Does your chest sink? Do you brace for disappointment even as you speak hope with your lips? That feeling is the truth of your belief, and that belief is the command to the universe. Change that feeling and you have altered your fate. How do you change it? By repeatedly entering into the state of the wish fulfilled until it feels more natural than the old one. Repetition converts imagination into identity. Identity converts reality. You do not need the permission of anyone or anything to accept a new concept of yourself. You do not need the current balance in your bank account to approve your wealth. You do not need your present relationships to agree with your worthiness. These are effects, not causes. The cause lives inside your imagination, and it is always available, always immediate. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Saturate yourself in it, and let your senses be trained to recognize that inner world as the only truth. When doubt knocks, do not argue with it. Return to the scene. When fear speaks, do not plead with it. Replace it with the tone of fulfillment. You cannot serve two masters, the state of lack and the state of completion. Choose one and the other dissolve. Some say, but I have tried to believe and nothing changed. They fail to see that belief is not a brief emotional spike. It is a lived assumption, a steady dwelling in the end. It is not a performance, it is a posture. It is not an emergency technique pulled out when things look bad. It is the daily air you breathe. If you practice the state only when you are desperate, your very desperation becomes the dominant inner atmosphere, and the universe faithfully mirrors that. But if you return again and again to the inner scene, to the tone of certainty, to the quiet joy of it is done, then you teach your nervous system to relax into the fulfillment. And life is compelled to conform. You can prove this to yourself on the smallest scales. Imagine a simple encounter with a friend going exactly as you wish. Feel the warmth, the ease, the mutual appreciation before it happens. Watch how the meeting then somehow matches what you rehearsed. Extend this to larger areas: career, love, health, abundance. The principle does not change with size. The universe doesn't consider one dream heavier than another. The only weight is the resistance in your own belief. Lift that, and everything else becomes light. Do not be deceived by appearances that contradict your desire. Appearances are old news, expired assumptions still playing themselves out. Treat them as echoes, not prophecies. If you planted a new seed in the ground today, you would not stare at yesterday's soil and declare that nothing will grow. You would water it, protect it, and hold the vision of its harvest as if it were already blooming. The same patience, the same quiet certainty must be applied to the garden of your mind. You do not need to monitor the soil every minute. You need to persist in the unseen fact that the seed has already taken root. When you finally grasp that your inner belief is the sculptor and your outer life the clay, a great calm comes over you. You no longer feel the need to control every event, fix every person, or fight every obstacle. You go within, select your state, and remain faithful to it. And as you do, people, places, and events move like pieces on a board to accommodate your choice. They call it coincidence, luck, timing. You call it law. And you live, not in reaction to the world, but in mastery of the only chamber where creation truly happens. The imagination, that you dare to accept as reality now. Living as if your desires already fulfilled attracts them faster. There is a magnetic power in the assumption that what you want is not coming someday but is already yours right now. When you embody this state, the universe has no choice but to mirror it back to you. Life does not respond to waiting or longing, it responds to the certainty of being. The very moment you decide that you are already the person who has what you desire, your entire vibration shifts. Your thoughts begin to align, your emotions follow, and your actions start to carry the authority of someone who knows, not hopes. This shift is not subtle. It is powerful enough to change the course of your reality. Think of the difference between someone begging for change and someone who already has it. The energy is worlds apart. When you live in the already done state, you stop chasing. You stop acting like someone who is incomplete or lacking. You become the person who moves with quiet assurance, who carries the energy of fulfillment in every word, every glance, every step. This is the secret that draws your desires closer, because you are no longer asking for them. You are allowing them. You are no longer sending signals of "I don't have it yet." Instead, you radiate "it is here," and reality has to rearrange itself to agree with you. Most people sabotage their own manifestations because they live in the state of waiting. They imagine what they want but never shift into the identity of having it. Their prayers and affirmations, though sincere, are filled with longing rather than gratitude. They speak from a place of "I wish" instead of "I am." The universe always reflects the dominant feeling, not the words. You can repeat positive phrases all day, but if deep down you feel unworthy, poor, or unloved, those feelings override your surface affirmations. The key is to create a state of inner completeness, to feel the reality of your desires so strongly that the outer world has no choice but to catch up. Living as if it is done is not pretending or lying to yourself. It is aligning with the truth of the unseen. Everything you want already exists in the spiritual realm, and by accepting it now, you create a bridge for it to move into the physical. Think of an actor playing a role. The great ones do not just read lines, they step fully into the identity of the character. They feel what the character feels. They think as the character thinks. And as a result, they become believable. In the same way, you must act from the version of you who already has the life you want. You must feel their confidence, think their thoughts, and behave with their sense of completion. When you do this consistently, you stop living in the future and start living in the reality of your creation now. This is why gratitude is so powerful. Gratitude is not just being thankful for what you already see. It is the feeling of receiving what you have asked for before it arrives. When you express gratitude for your desires as though they are already in your hands, you generate the exact vibration needed for them to manifest. Gratitude closes the gap between the imagined and the real. It tells the universe, "I am no longer waiting, I have received." And the universe responds with opportunities, coincidences, and pathways that you never could have forced into existence. Imagine this. If you truly believed you had already achieved your dream, would you still worry? Would you still doubt? No, you would walk with certainty. You would talk with a different tone. You would expect good things because you would know that the outcome is already yours. This is the essence of living as if. It erases the tension of waiting. It removes the heaviness of doubt and replaces it with a lightness that says, "Everything I need is already mine." That energy is irresistible. It draws circumstances to match your assumption like iron to a magnet. When you begin to live this way, you will notice subtle shifts. People treat you differently because your energy feels different. You carry yourself with confidence rather than desperation. Opportunities appear because you are no longer hiding behind fear or hesitation. You are acting from a place of completion, and completion naturally attracts more completion. The world bends to the person who knows who they are, who believes without question that their desires are already unfolding. This is why imagination is the most powerful tool you possess. When you close your eyes and see yourself living your dream, you must go beyond just seeing. You must feel it. You must step into that scene so completely that your body reacts as if it is already happening. Feel the joy, the relief, the excitement. Taste the success, the love, the freedom. Your subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between what is imagined and what is real when the feeling is vivid enough. And because your subconscious controls your reality, this inner rehearsal becomes the blueprint for the life you will live. Living as if also changes how you make decisions. When you already see yourself as wealthy, you stop making choices from fear of poverty. When you already see yourself as loved, you stop begging for affection or settling for less. When you already see yourself as successful, you take actions that align with that version of you rather than clinging to safe but limiting paths. Every step you take comes from a place of knowing that the outcome is already secure. You no longer wonder if it will happen. You simply ask how soon, knowing it is inevitable. Some people confuse this with arrogance, but it is not. It is the most natural state you can live in, because you were never meant to live in doubt or lack. Doubt is learned. Faith is natural. Children live as if their dreams are real, and the universe often bends to their fearless belief. As adults, we bury that power under layers of logic, fear, and disappointment. But the moment you return to that pure state of assumption, the moment you choose to feel your desire as present, everything begins to shift. It is like turning a key in a locked door. You realize that what you wanted was never outside of you. It was always waiting for you to claim it. The only days in life, 3 in all, are preceded by none. This way of living requires practice because the world constantly tempts you to look at what is missing. You will be challenged by the evidence of your current reality. You will be tempted to believe that nothing is happening, that things are moving too slowly. But this is when you must hold the vision the strongest. Do not be fooled by the time lag between imagining and seeing. Reality is simply catching up to your inner shift. The longer you stay faithful to the state of fulfillment, the faster the outer world will mirror it. It is not your job to figure out the how or when. Your job is to remain in the feeling of the end. Living as if means you rise in the morning already feeling the joy of the life you want. You speak with the confidence of someone who knows they are blessed. You stop looking at your current circumstances as permanent and start treating them as temporary shadows of past beliefs. You walk through your day expecting good news, expecting open doors, expecting blessings to unfold. Because why wouldn't they, if you already have them in your heart? This mindset not only attracts your desires faster, but also makes the journey lighter, more peaceful, and more enjoyable. Your imagination and feelings create the reality you experience. The world you touch, see, and move through is nothing more than the crystallized residue of states you once occupied within. Every scene, every relationship dynamic, every lucky break or unfortunate setback is a mirror reflecting what you have dared to assume as true about yourself and life. Thought without feeling is like a script never performed. It remains an idea, a possibility. But when an idea is fused with feeling, when you know it, taste it, breathe it as if it were already a living fact, you give it substance, direction, inevitability. Feeling is the stamp of authenticity the subconscious recognizes. It does not argue, it does not analyze, it simply accepts the emotionalized assumption you feed it and sets the entire world in motion to match it. Most people think they are reacting to life, but they are reacting to their own projections. They believe the outer world is first cause and they are second, but in truth, the order is reversed. The inner motion precedes the outer manifestation. This is why two individuals can stand in the same room, speak to the same person, face the same circumstance, and walk away with entirely different outcomes. One carries the inner conviction of favor, the other the feeling of rejection. One assumes doors open, the other braces for them to close. Life answers each according to the feeling tone they occupy, not what they want, not what they say, but what they are on the inside. The imagination is not a toy or an escape. It is the workshop of creation. It is a sacred place where you rehearse the scenes you wish to live and impregnate them with the feeling that they are already true. The mistake is to look at imagination as just pretending. The deeper truth is that the outer world is the slower, denser pretending, and the inner scene is the fast, formative reality. When you consistently dwell in an inner scene saturated with fulfilled feeling, you are not daydreaming. You are issuing commands to the only power that can rearrange your life. You are instructing the subconscious to organize thoughts, behaviors, encounters, and timing so that your inner conviction becomes an outer fact. Feeling is the bridge. You can repeat a statement 1,000 times, but if each repetition carries with it the vibration of lack or hoping, you are solidifying the absence of what you desire. A single imaginal act, deeply felt, outweighs hours of mechanical affirmations. The subconscious mind understands the language of emotion, imagery, and certainty. When you relax your body, quiet your mind, and enter the scene where your wish is fulfilled, hearing the congratulations, sensing the relief, noticing the naturalness of it all, you are impressing upon your inner self a blueprint it must build. Do it again and again until it feels more normal to have than to want, more natural to be than to chase. Consider how often you let your imagination run wild in the wrong direction. You rehearse confrontations that never happen, outcomes that only exhaust you, future fears that you then mistake for intuition. Those imaginal rehearsals also bear fruit, because the law is impersonal. It does not choose only the pleasant visions to manifest, it reflects the dominant ones. The invitation is to become deliberate. Use the same energy you once spent on anxiety to script the life you prefer. The same vividness, the same detail, the same emotional charge, only now in service of your chosen end. When you change the inner conversation, you change the feeling, and when you change the feeling, you change the world you meet tomorrow. Speak to yourself from the place of completion. Hear yourself being the person who already crossed the finish line. Let others in your imaginal scenes respond to you as they would if your desire were already fulfilled. This is not childish fantasy, this is disciplined creation. The outer world is slow to accept new commands if you keep canceling them with old feelings. Persist past the first resistance of your senses. Appearances are delayed echoes of past assumptions, not prophecies of what must be. You can test this on the most ordinary things. Imagine receiving a message from someone you haven't heard from in a while. Feel the surprise and the simple joy of it. Release it and watch as life rearranges itself to meet your inner act. Imagine a meeting going smoothly, a deal closing, a body healing, a relationship softening. Let the feeling of relief, ease, gratitude saturate the picture until it feels inevitable. Then drop it and move through your day as if it were already decided. The test is not whether you can force the outside to move instantly, but whether you can remain faithful inwardly while time acts as the courier. There is a difference between thinking of your desire and thinking from it. Thinking of it keeps it distant, admired but unreachable. Thinking from it means you have stepped inside the state and are looking out from its windows, feeling what one would feel who already possesses it. The shift is subtle, yet absolute. From changes everything, because from carries the felt reality of having. From commands, of begs. From selects, of hopes. Choose from, and you will notice how quickly your actions, your speech, your posture, and even your environment begin to subtly reorganize themselves in agreement. Then Raman comes. If you find the old feelings return, do not fight them, replace them. Fighting keeps you entangled. Replacement is mastery. Close your eyes, return to the end, feel it again. Do it as often as needed until it becomes second nature. You are not trying to force yourself to believe. You are training your nervous system to accept a new baseline, a new normal. Eventually, the old state feels foreign, the new one feels inevitable, and when that happens, the world will rush to confirm what you quietly decided long ago in the privacy of your imagination. The most compassionate thing you can do for yourself is to assume the best about your life and make that assumption felt. Refuse to argue for your limitations in your inner speech. Refuse to rehearse the story in which you are unlucky, unseen, or unworthy. Give your subconscious a new script, one infused with dignity, abundance, love, and certainty. Return to it nightly, especially as you drift to sleep. When the gate between conscious and subconscious is open, enter the scene. Feel its truth. And let that be the last impression of the day, so it may work while you rest. Arranging all things to mirror the state you chose to occupy. Delays are not denials, but divine timing preparing your manifestation. When you understand the deeper rhythm of creation, you stop panicking when things do not unfold on your schedule. The universe is never late, nor is it careless with the desires placed in your heart. Everything that appears as a delay is often a silent alignment, a preparation of conditions, people, and events to ensure your desire manifests in the most perfect way possible. What you see as waiting is actually weaving 1,000 unseen threads coming together to create the reality you have claimed. If something has not yet arrived, it does not mean it will not. It means the foundation is being strengthened so that when it comes, it will stay. There is a reason seeds do not sprout the moment they are planted. The soil needs time to nourish the seed, the roots need time to spread beneath the surface, and the conditions above must align for growth to break through. The same is true with your manifestations. The universe knows the exact season when your desire will bloom, and forcing it to come before that time only leads to frustration. The key is to trust that every delay is a sign of unseen progress. When you feel impatient, remind yourself that even in stillness, the forces of life are moving. The blueprint of your desire is being built behind the curtain, and at the right moment, it will reveal itself so clearly and powerfully that you will know why the waiting was necessary. Most people interpret a delay as a sign that they are doing something wrong. They doubt their vision, question their worthiness, and abandon their inner work. They begin to water weeds of fear rather than the seed of faith they planted. This is why patience is not just waiting. It is the art of remaining faithful to your vision, even when you cannot yet see evidence of it. Patience means holding the feeling of fulfillment, regardless of the appearance of time. It is the quiet knowing that the promise of your inner world is stronger than any delay in the outer world. Sometimes a delay is the universe's way of protecting you. You might think you are ready for the life you desire, but certain lessons, relationships, or situations still need to prepare you for it. Without these lessons, you might not be able to handle the responsibility, success, or abundance that comes with your dream. Have you ever looked back on something you once desperately wanted and realized that the timing you thought was perfect would have destroyed you? This is the wisdom of divine timing. It ensures that what you receive will serve you, not break you. The delay is not a punishment, it is a shield. It is also important to remember that delays are not a sign of weakness in the law of creation. Just because something takes time to appear does not mean it is less real or less certain. Time itself is part of the manifestation process. It allows your belief to solidify, your feelings to deepen, and your vision to become unshakable. If everything arrived the moment you imagined it, you would never learn to trust the unseen. You would never develop the inner strength that comes from holding faith in the dark. Delays are the universe's way of refining both you and your desire, so that when the two meet, they fit perfectly. You may notice that the more you focus on the absence of your desire, the longer it seems to take. This is because impatience is a form of disbelief. It sends a message that says, I don't have it yet, and I'm not sure if I will. But when you shift your attention to the joy of already having it, when you live in the state of fulfillment, the passage of time loses its power over you. You no longer wait for your desire, you carry it within you. The universe responds to this energy by collapsing time, by speeding up the delivery, because it no longer needs to convince you, it only needs to reveal what you have already accepted as true. Delays also allow the universe to work in ways far beyond your limited understanding. You might imagine one path for your manifestation, but life has 100 better routes. What you see as a detour or a pause is often a redirection towards something more aligned, more powerful, and more beautiful than you envisioned. The delay gives space for miracles to happen, for opportunities to line up that you could never have orchestrated on your own. Trusting this process means surrendering control of the how and the when, knowing that these details are being handled by a wisdom greater than your own. You must learn to live in the gap between the inner claim and the outer evidence. This gap is not a void, it is a sacred space where transformation takes place. It is where your old self fades and your new self is formed. It is where your faith grows roots, where you learn to hold the feeling of it is done without needing constant proof. The longer you can stay in this space without wavering, the more powerful your manifestation becomes. This is why those who master their inner state often experience sudden breakthroughs. What looks like an overnight success is always the result of quiet persistence during the unseen delay. Instead of dreading the delay, see it as an invitation to deepen your relationship with your vision. Use this time to imagine more vividly, to feel your desire more strongly, to refine what you truly want. Many times, delays reveal that our original desire was too small, too shallow, or not aligned with who we really are. The waiting period allows you to dream bigger, to see the true magnitude of what is possible. By the time the manifestation arrives, you will be ready to receive it, not with surprise, but with the calm confidence of someone who always knew it would come. You are never truly waiting when you are living in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Waiting implies lack, but feeling implies possession. As you hold the state of having, the passage of time becomes irrelevant. You stop counting days, you stop measuring progress, because in your heart and mind, the thing you desire is already here. This mental state collapses delay because you are no longer reinforcing the story of absence. You are living in the story of completion, and the universe must align to match the story you tell yourself. The longer you can hold this feeling, the faster your reality will conform. So the next time you feel delayed, remind yourself that what is yours cannot be lost. Nothing can stand in the way of a heart fully convinced of its own fulfillment. Life is not withholding from you. It is arranging everything so that when your desire appears, it does so with power, permanence, and perfection. Trust this timing, because when it all unfolds, you will see that every moment of waiting was a piece of the masterpiece the universe was painting for you. Absolute faith, an unwavering vision, bring the unseen into reality. Faith is not optimism, not hope dressed in pretty words. It is possession, a calm inner finality that refuses to negotiate with appearances. When you decide, with the full weight of your being, that your desire is already accomplished, you withdraw energy from doubt, from timelines, from the need to keep checking if it is working. You enter rest. This rest is not passivity. It is the highest form of activity because it is the steady radiation of a decision that cannot be reversed. The universe reads that steadiness as law and moves to fulfill it. Unwavering vision means you no longer drift between states. You do not entertain the end for a few quiet minutes at night and then spend the rest of the day rehearsing the possibility of failure. Double-mindedness keeps creation suspended. The moment you oscillate between "it is done" and "what if it never happens," you split your power. Absolute faith welds your attention to a single outcome, the fulfilled end. You return to it again and again until it becomes so natural that the old self, the doubter, feels like a stranger wearing clothes that no longer fit. This inner certainty is felt, not forced. You cannot bully yourself into belief, you relax into it. You let the feeling of already having saturate you so completely that your nervous system stops bracing for disappointment. That is when you know faith has taken root. You no longer scan the horizon for proof, you carry your proof inside. The imaginal act, accepted as real, becomes a lived memory of the future. You revisit it not to check its progress, but to enjoy its reality. And because the subconscious accepts what is felt as true, it reorganizes everything in your life to comply with that acceptance. Vision must be specific enough to move you emotionally and expansive enough to allow life to surprise you. When you see it clearly and feel it deeply, you are not micromanaging the steps, you are inhabiting the end. This habitation is your covenant with the unseen. You keep your sight by staying loyal to the state. Life keeps its sight by making the state visible. Every time fear, logic, or evidence tries to negotiate you out of your end, you quietly return, not with strain, with certainty, with that inner tone that says, "I have already received." Many people confuse effort with power and think that their constant anxious doing is what will force reality to comply. But power is concentration, not agitation. Power is singleness of eye, a mind that sees the finished picture and refuses to behold anything else as final. This is why faith moves mountains. The mountain is only the hardened shape of old belief. When you persist in the new assumption, the old form must yield. It cannot stand before a consciousness that has stopped feeding it with attention. There is a chemistry in unwavering vision. The moment you accept the end as real, your body begins to align with it. Your posture changes, your tone changes, your decisions change. You start saying no to what contradicts your destiny and yes to what harmonizes with it. And you do it without drama because you are acting from what is already true for you. People call it intuition or alignment, but it is simply the outer echo of an inner decree. You have crowned a state within, and now everything bows to it without. Absolute faith is not loud. It is not a frantic declaration shouted to drown out doubt. It is quiet, like someone who knows the outcome and doesn't need to convince anyone, including themselves. That quietness unnerves the old patterns because they feed on your attention, your worry, your constant checking. When you stop feeding them, they dissolve. The silence of conviction allows the new pattern to solidify. You become immune to surface fluctuations because you know they are only the last flickers of a fading script. The strongest test of faith is time, not because time has power, but because it tempts you to measure. Each day you don't see your desire can be an invitation to abandon your state. But unwavering vision refuses to date-stamped fulfillment. It simply abides. And in that abiding, something alchemical occurs. The desire ceases to be a desire and becomes an identity. Once it is identity, manifestation is inevitable because the world cannot withhold what you have already become. Think of faith as the Sabbath of the soul, the rest that follows the work of imagination. You have created the end within, now you rest in it. Rest does not mean inaction. It means no more inner argument, no more bargaining, no more pleading. You move, you work, you live, but you do so from completion, not to achieve completion. This inversion is everything. When you act to become, you affirm you are not. When you act because you already are, your actions are effortless confirmations of what is. If doubt returns, you do not panic, you replace it. You step back into the scene, feel the relief of the wish fulfilled, and let that feeling wash away the old reflex. You do it as many times as necessary until certainty becomes your default. This is discipline, but not the stiff, joyless kind. It is devotion. Devotion to the reality you chose. You do not argue with appearances because appearances are slow. The unseen is fast, and you live there until the slow catches up. Unwavering vision simplifies your life. Choices become obvious. Distractions lose their shine. You no longer ask for reassurance from people who cannot see what you see. You move with an inward authority that does not need external validation. That authority is not arrogance, it is alignment with the law. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and persist. Every assumption persisted in hardens into fact. Whether it is the assumption of lack or the assumption of abundance, the law is impartial. Your faith picks the mold, your persistence pours the substance. Reality takes the shape you refuse to release. Be still and understand the power within you. The quiet force that forms galaxies, lifts empires, and breathes wealth into the unseen before it touches your hands. Most people chase riches as if it lies somewhere outside, buried in vaults, behind closed doors, in someone else's pocket. But the true riches were never out there. The origin of all wealth resides within you. Not in your job, not in the economy, not in the number on a screen, but in the conception you hold of yourself. And until that changes, no amount of effort will produce lasting gain. The poor man in mind can inherit a fortune and lose it in months because his inner wealth has not yet expanded to hold what he's received. Meanwhile, the rich man in mind can be stripped of everything and still find his way back to abundance because his consciousness has already claimed what the world hasn't seen yet. What you repeatedly think, feel, and imagine yourself to be becomes the script life is compelled to perform. You are not a beggar at the gates of opportunity. You are the author of opportunity itself. Do not ask, how much money do I have? Ask instead, what do I see when I close my eyes? What image of wealth do I dare hold in silence? If you look upon yourself as rich, calmly, confidently, and faithfully, then life must reorganize itself to match the picture you sustain. The world is not a dictator, it is a mirror. It reflects not your wishes but your self-concept. If you still see yourself as someone who struggles, who lacks, who waits for a miracle, then your reality will obey that impression. But the moment you stop rehearsing lack in your imagination, you begin to shift the tides of your world. You must understand, it is not arrogance to see yourself as already rich. It is obedience to a deeper law. A fig tree bears figs not because it tries, but because it simply is. So too must you assume the state of wealth in your mind, not through force or desperation, but with quiet inner knowing. You walk, speak, and move not as someone waiting to be wealthy, but as someone whose riches are inevitable, unseen only by eyes too shallow to see what spirit already holds. The unseen precedes the seen, always. Just as the seed precedes the tree, your thought precedes your bank account. And how does this work? Through feeling. You must feel the reality of your wealth before the world acknowledges it. The richest minds don't wait for confirmation, they are the confirmation. They sit in empty rooms and smile as if gold lines the walls. They pay bills with gratitude for a fortune they can already sense taking form. They do not deny the visible, they simply do not bow to it. The rich in mind know their treasure is not a salary, but a state of being. And this state magnetizes circumstances that match its frequency. You cannot long entertain a self-image of poverty and expect prosperity to abide. You must not entertain thoughts of fear, of shrinking, of settling if you wish to grow into riches that are stable, lasting, and liberating. What you accept as true of yourself will clothe itself in matter. The world is not your master, it is your echo. And if you speak abundance in the language of imagination, it must answer you back with evidence. Look no longer to the outside to define your worth. Do not consult the opinions of others. Do not measure your success by numbers or applause. Your greatest wealth is your capacity to imagine differently. Use it. Spend time in silence, not worrying, but designing, not doubting, but knowing. For the imagination is not a toy of children. It is the divine workshop of creation. When you rise in the morning, see yourself blessed, not for the money already received, but for the riches unfolding. When you walk into a room, walk with the grace of one who already holds the keys to empires unseen. When you close your eyes at night, do not carry the burdens of lack. Carry the vision of your abundance as though it is already yours. Because, in truth, it already is. Your task is not to earn it, but to embody it. You need not beg for what is already within you. All you must do is persist in the state of wealth until your world has no choice but to comply. Be rich in mind first. Dwell in that invisible mansion. Decorate it with your certainty. Fill its halls with your gratitude, and soon what was once only yours in spirit will appear around you in form. For the world is your servant, and your mind your true treasury. The world around you, the very fabric of your daily experience, is not a series of random events or external forces shaping your fate. It is instead a perfect reflection of the image you carry of yourself. Your self-concept, the quiet, often unnoticed assumption of who you are, casts a long shadow across your reality. If you believe yourself to be limited, poor, unworthy, or lacking, then all of life will rise up to confirm that belief. Every interaction, every opportunity, every closed door or financial struggle becomes a mirror reflecting what you've chosen, perhaps unconsciously, to accept as true. And so the cycle continues, not because the world is unkind, but because it is obedient. Obedient to the impression you hold of yourself in the deepest chambers of your mind. There is no change in your finances, relationships, or circumstances until there is first a change within. You may seek more money, chase higher income, switch careers, or even receive windfalls. But without a shift in your internal identity, all outer progress will be temporary. The reason is simple. You cannot long possess what you do not inwardly believe you deserve or already embody. A poor self-concept will sabotage even the richest opportunities, while a wealthy self-concept will convert even the leanest resources into prosperity. The transformation you seek is not one of doing more, but of being more, of quietly assuming the role of the one who already has, and watching the world follow your lead. This is not magic, it is law. Not a law written in books or proclaimed from stages, but a law etched into the very essence of being. The law that says, as within, so without. And so every time you look at your life and say, this is all I have, you are not observing a fact, you are confirming a belief. The numbers in your account, the clothes in your closet, the things others say about you, none of these determine your reality. You do. The moment you shift your inner self-concept from I lack to I am wealthy, the conditions must begin to change. Perhaps not instantly, and perhaps not in the way you expect, but shift they must. The world has no choice but to obey the command of your sustained inner identity. This is why it is not only unproductive but dangerous to live by appearances. Appearances deceive. They are the echo, not the cause. They are the shell, not the seed. And yet most people live trapped in what they can see and touch, forgetting that the root of all things lies in the invisible. The man who sees himself as poor, regardless of what the world gives him, will find ways to lose it. The man who sees himself as rich, even when his wallet is thin, will attract what matches his wealth of mind. This is not wishful thinking, it is spiritual alignment. The outer world must submit to the conviction that dominates within. You do not attract what you want, you attract what you are. And what you are is not defined by your past or your present conditions. It is defined by the image you dare to hold of yourself in the quiet moments, in the stillness when no one is watching. If you see yourself as someone for whom money comes easily, whose hands touch gold, whose mind generates wealth effortlessly, then this picture begins to harden into fact. It is not a matter of forcing reality to obey. It is a matter of allowing your identity to lead. Everything flows from your concept of self. If you believe you are the kind of person who always struggles, who never gets a break, who can't get ahead, then you will, with perfect consistency, find the world treating you accordingly. Not because it must, but because it is responding to your command. And what is your command? It is not the words you speak when you're trying to impress others. It is not the affirmations you chant without belief. Your true command is the persistent assumption you carry of yourself in silence. That quiet mental image you go to sleep with. The inner story you tell when no one else is listening. That is the script life reads from. And so if you truly desire wealth, if you long to see your outer life adorned with prosperity, you must begin not by changing your actions, but by altering the source of all action, your self-concept. This self-concept is like soil. Whatever seed you plant in it, lack or abundance, fear or confidence, will grow according to its nature. The soil does not care what seed is planted, it simply brings it to life. And so too does the subconscious bring to life the image you impress upon it. Whether that image is one of wealth or poverty, success or struggle, is entirely up to you. You must stop rehearsing the past. You must stop describing your circumstances as if they are final. You must look in the mirror, not to confirm what is, but to declare what shall be. And so, begin within. Close your eyes and see the man or woman you desire to be. Do not just see it, feel it, know it. Walk in it mentally before you walk in it physically. Let your inner world be more real to you than the numbers on your bank statement. Let the imagination paint the portrait of your wealth so vividly that you can feel its truth in your bones. When you believe it long enough, when you persist in it deeply enough, your world will surrender to it. It always does, because it was never the world that had power over you, it was your conception of yourself. Change that, and you change everything. Imagination is not a fleeting daydream or a child's fantasy. It is the silent architect of your life, crafting every experience from the unseen into the seen. Everything you own, everything you do, every place you find yourself in, was once a thought, a picture, a feeling held within. Long before money appeared in your hands, it existed as a possibility in your mind. Long before the job, the house, the opportunity, or the lack thereof, there was a silent impression formed in imagination. The world you touch is the echo. The world within is the origin. Most people misunderstand the role of imagination. They treat it like an escape from reality, when in truth, it is the very root of reality. It is the blueprint from which the outer world is printed. To imagine is not to pretend. It is to begin. Every rich person, whether they acknowledge it or not, first saw themselves as rich in their mind. Every breakthrough came from someone daring to imagine a different outcome, to believe in a picture that was not yet visible to others. The unseen always precedes the seen. It is not a metaphor. It is the mechanics of creation. What you imagine with feeling becomes a substance of your world. It may come subtly, gradually, through unexpected channels or delayed timing, but it always arrives. Imagination mixed with belief is the womb of creation. When you repeatedly visualize wealth, not as a distant hope but as a present experience, you lay the foundation for its arrival. This is not about closing your eyes and hoping. It is about deliberately living from the inner reality with such consistency that the outer must give way and reflect it. Think about it. When you see yourself as someone with wealth, how do you walk? How do you speak? How do you handle challenges, approach people, carry yourself? That version of you exists now, not in the material, but in imagination. And the more you visit that version in thought, the more your subconscious accepts it as normal. The subconscious does not distinguish between real and imagined. It only accepts what is felt consistently and deeply. So if you imagine yourself poor, fearful, behind in life, and constantly struggling, that is the state your subconscious receives. And that is the pattern it will manifest. But when you reverse it, when you begin to feel as if abundance surrounds you, supports you, and flows through you, you signal a new command, and life begins to respond. Imagination does not ask for evidence, it asks for faith. It demands that you see what others cannot yet see, that you believe what your senses cannot yet confirm, and this is why many give up before the results appear. They plant seeds in imagination but dig them up too soon with doubt and impatience. They imagine riches but then cancel it with words of lack. They envision prosperity but then speak of how things are not working. But the rich in mind know better. They imagine and persist. They visualize and feel. They do not bend to the seen. They master the unseen. You must become comfortable holding images of wealth in your imagination. See yourself living in that home, moving with ease through luxury, giving generously, working joyfully, waking up grateful for a life you once only dreamed about. This is not delusion, it is devotion. You are training your mind to accept a new pattern, one that overrides the old, worn-out beliefs that no longer serve you. Every time you repeat that image, every time you bring it to life in your feelings, you are impressing it deeper into your subconscious, and when the image is impressed enough, the world must take form around it. It is through imagination that you rise above circumstances. You may have no money today, but in imagination you can touch the silk of expensive clothes. You can feel the weight of gold in your hands. You can hear the sound of your name being honored in circles you've yet to enter. And when you feel these things vividly and regularly, your emotional state begins to shift. And when your emotional state shifts, your behavior changes. And when your behavior changes, so do your results. This is how the invisible creates the visible, not in one leap, but through alignment. Stop asking how it will come. That is not your domain. The how belongs to the world. Your only task is to dwell in the state of being rich through imagination. When you do this sincerely, you will notice doors opening, people showing up, ideas forming, and chances appearing that never existed before. You will call it luck, but it is not luck. It is the world obeying the image you consistently held in mind. The banker, the boss, the client, the opportunity. They are all actors showing up to play their roles in the movie you wrote with your imagination. The rich in mind do not panic. They do not beg. They create. They return again and again to their inner sanctuary where their wealth already exists. They do not consult reality for permission. They declare it real within, and reality adjusts itself accordingly. This is not arrogance, it is authority. The kind of authority that comes from knowing you are not a victim of circumstances, but a creator of them. Practice this every day. Not out of duty, but out of joy. Find pleasure in your visions. Let your imagination be the place where you rest, not the world that tires you. Let it be the garden where you plant new realities, the stage where you rehearse the life you were born to live. For what you consistently imagine becomes familiar, and what becomes familiar must become fact. Your only job is to persist until the world sees what you've seen all along, that you were never poor, you were always rich, in the place where all things begin. There is a sacred secret known to those who walk through life with an air of quiet confidence. It is not born of arrogance, nor does it come from mere positive thinking. It arises from the inner act of assuming a reality so deeply that it becomes a living truth within them, regardless of what the outer world reflects. The key to attracting wealth is not in the frantic chase or desperate action, but in the ability to feel rich before a single dollar arrives. This is where most people falter. They wait for their bank account to change so they can feel secure. But the ones who understand the laws of consciousness reverse the process. They feel secure first, and then the bank account follows suit. The world is not designed to give you what you want, simply because you want it. It is designed to reflect back the dominant emotional state you persist in. You may say you desire abundance, but if your inner state is filled with fear, worry, or desperation, you are living in a frequency of lack. On the other hand, if you dare to feel as though you are already abundant, if you let that feeling saturate your heart, fill your breath, and guide your choices, then wealth must come, not because the outer conditions were manipulated, but because your inner world changed its tone, and the outer world had no choice but to echo it. Feeling is the key, not mechanical affirmations, not mere repetition of words, but the deep emotional acceptance that what you desire is already yours. You must move through your day as one who already possesses the riches you seek, not to impress others, not as a performance, but as a natural expression of the state you dwell in. The clothes you wear, the way you speak, the way you walk, all of these are subtle affirmations of your state, and when they arise from the inner feeling of abundance, they become magnetic. There is a great power in this kind of inner stability, the kind that does not react in panic when bills arrive, the kind that does not shrink in the face of setbacks, the kind that remains unshaken because it knows, in the depths of the soul, that all is well. That feeling of calm wealth is not born of money in the account. It is what draws the money into the account. You must feel it before it comes. You must embody the peace, the gratitude, the certainty, long before the physical results appear. And when you do, you have shifted the axis of your reality. This does not mean ignoring the present moment or pretending problems don't exist. It means choosing not to let them define you. It means recognizing that the outer world is the past in motion, a projection of previous thoughts and beliefs. If you continue to react emotionally to what is seen, you remain a slave to it. But if you respond to the inner vision, if you feel as though the dream has already taken form, then you are guiding your future with precision and power. The universe does not respond to pleading, it responds to conviction. And conviction is felt, not spoken. You must feel the joy of having, the lightness of wealth, the satisfaction of being cared for. Sit with that feeling until it becomes normal, until you no longer crave it because you already are it. In this state, you attract without trying. People, ideas, resources begin to align themselves with your inner world because your emotional vibration is calling them forth. You are no longer waiting, you are living in the answer. This is not something that happens once and never again. It is a discipline, a practice of returning again and again to the inner state of fulfillment. When doubt whispers, when fear creeps in, you do not fight it with logic. You dissolve it by returning to the feeling. You breathe in the wealth you cannot yet see. You walk as one who already holds it. And the world begins to shift, slowly at first, perhaps subtly, but with increasing certainty. You will notice the change not just in money, but in how people treat you, the opportunities that arise, the doors that open. You will find yourself drawn to better choices, guided toward wiser paths. Why? Because your inner world is now calibrated to the frequency of someone who is already rich. You no longer move from survival, but from certainty. And that shift makes all the difference. There is no limit to what this feeling can create, because it is the very essence of creation itself. Before there was light, there was the feeling of light. Before there was form, there was the consciousness of form. Your task is not to make wealth happen. It is to feel it already is. The rest will follow. So begin now, wherever you are. Sit in stillness and ask yourself, what would it feel like to be rich right now? Not tomorrow, not someday, but now. Let that feeling rise, even if your surroundings contradict it. Even if the bills are due and the cupboards are thin. Your power lies not in reacting to appearances, but in feeling beyond them. Practice this feeling until it becomes your natural state, until you no longer need the world to confirm it, because by then it will already be on its way. It must be. For you have become the embodiment of what you once sought, and in that embodiment the world bends to meet you. There is a quiet and dangerous trap many fall into without even realizing it. The belief that what they see around them is the truth of who they are. They glance at a bank statement, look at the walls they live within, measure the brand of clothes they wear, and let those outer things define their worth. They say, this is who I am. This is what I can afford. This is my level. And with those silent agreements, they lock themselves into prisons built not with bars, but with beliefs. The tragedy is not in the lack itself, but in the acceptance of it as identity. For as long as you allow external conditions to name you, you will remain subject to them. Your task is not to deny reality, but to understand that what you see is not fixed. It is simply the result of old thoughts. A reflection, not a definition. You were never meant to be ruled by appearances. You were never meant to look at your environment and let it decide how you feel, what you expect, or what you believe you deserve. The outer world is the past clothed in form. It is the echo of what you once assumed to be true. It is not alive in and of itself. It is animated by the spirit within you. You do not need to fight the world, argue with circumstances, or convince others. You only need to stop letting what is visible hold more power than what is possible. And possibility lives in you. It is the seed of new wealth, new doors, new beginnings, and it waits patiently for you to nourish it by looking away from what is and toward what can be. When you let your environment tell you who you are, you become reactive. You walk through life as if it's happening to you. But when you turn your gaze inward, when you say, I am rich because I choose to be, I am wealthy in consciousness, then the world begins to shift. Slowly perhaps, quietly maybe, but shift it must, because now you are acting from truth, not appearance. You are remembering that spirit is the source and matter is the echo. The house, the car, the money, these are shadows. The substance is your self-imagining. Change the image, and the shadows will rearrange. This is why it is so dangerous to constantly tell others and yourself what you can't afford. Every time you say it, you are not just stating a momentary fact. You are reinforcing a belief. You are tying yourself to the current condition and saying, this is who I am. But you are not a bank balance. You are not a paycheck. You are not the limits of your upbringing. You are awareness, choosing new thoughts every day, and those thoughts build the world you walk in. If you keep choosing limitation, the world will honor your request. If you choose expansion, even when nothing seems to support it, the doors will begin to open. They have to, because you've stopped waiting for the world to tell you who you are. You've taken back the authority. Imagine a man sitting in a small, dimly lit room. The walls are cracked, the floor is bare, and the air is heavy with silence. If he believes that this room defines him, he will shrink. He will make peace with confinement. But if he sits there and dares to imagine a palace, if he sees himself surrounded by beauty, if he closes his eyes and feels the richness of space, light, and freedom, then that man is not poor. The world may call him foolish, but his soul knows better. For that feeling will begin to magnetize resources, people, ideas, and paths that match the inner vision. The room is not the truth. The feeling is. And that is the power you hold, to feel beyond your circumstances, to walk as though you are wealthy not because you are pretending, but because you've remembered who you really are. This is not play acting. It is returning to alignment with your source, a source that is limitless, abundant, and overflowing with provision. The reason you suffer is not because life is unfair. It is because you've been convinced that what you see now is all there is. But it is not. There is more, so much more. But you must stop trying to prove your worth to a world that doesn't yet see it. You must know your worth within and let the world rise to meet it. When you stop defining yourself by the outside, you begin to live from freedom. You make decisions based not on what you have, but on who you believe you are. You carry yourself with a posture that speaks of inner stability. You no longer act desperate. You no longer chase approval. You no longer dwell in the energy of not enough. Instead, you embody wealth. You radiate sufficiency. And that energy shifts everything. Because now you are not waiting, you are leading. You are no longer a beggar at the gates of life. You are the builder of the city. It is not pride to see yourself as rich. It is wisdom. It is not delusion to ignore appearances when you know the deeper truth. It is mastery. Mastery over the only thing you were ever meant to control, your inner state. And when that state is unwavering, no storm can uproot you. You become a force the world must reckon with, not because you are loud, not because you demand, but because your silence carries certainty. The certainty of someone who no longer takes direction from the world but gives it. And the world, ever obedient, follows. Not immediately, not always in the way you planned, but it follows. And so every day remind yourself, I am not what I see. I am what I choose to be. Let that statement guide you when the bills arrive, when the account dips, when the doubts knock on your door. Do not let the temporary become your truth. Let the unseen guide your steps. Let the wealth within become so familiar, so deeply felt, that the outer world can no longer ignore it. Eventually, it must reflect it. It must shift. Because you have shifted, because you stopped being shaped by the world and started shaping it. There is a quiet power in persistence, an invisible current that draws your unseen vision into form, not through effort alone, but through consistency of consciousness. Most people begin with excitement. They visualize, affirm, dream for a few days, maybe even a week. But when nothing changes on the outside, they retreat into the old mindset, claiming it doesn't work. But it's not the method that fails. It is the inconsistency. The outer world is like clay. It doesn't harden instantly. It must be molded again and again by the pressure of your inner assumption until the form you've held so faithfully in your mind takes hold in matter. This process is not about time. It's about intensity and continuity. Your sustained inner state becomes the lawgiver of your external life. What you persist in, life must obey. You cannot assume wealth once and expect transformation. You must live in the state of being wealthy every day, regardless of whether your current circumstances support it or not. Persistence does not mean force or strain. It means quiet, confident repetition. A mental returning to the same image, the same feeling, the same inner atmosphere of success. Over and over, without frustration or desperation. Just as the earth responds to seasons without resistance, so too does life respond to your sustained state without fail. The only reason you may not see immediate results is because your state is not yet stable. It is inconsistent, interrupted by doubt, shaken by what appears to be real. But when the state becomes natural, when it feels like home, when it no longer needs validation, that's when the world bends to reflect it. Persistence in assumption means refusing to allow outer appearances to dictate your inner truth. You may wake up to an empty bank account, but your inner feeling remains unmoved. You do not say, "This is who I am." You say, "This is passing, and who I am is far greater." And you return to the state. You walk with the posture of abundance. You carry the tone of someone who is blessed, not as a mask, but as a mirror of what you truly believe. The world may not recognize it yet, but you do. And because you do, eventually the world must follow. Your assumption is not a wish, it is a declaration. When you assume wealth, you are saying, "This is already true, whether the world sees it or not." And that assumption, if held without contradiction, becomes a force of gravity. It begins to draw circumstances, people, ideas, and events that match the image you've sustained. But the moment you drop the state, the process weakens. It's not about believing once, it's about becoming the belief, feeling it so deeply, imagining it so vividly, living in it so fully that it becomes your default setting. That is when transformation occurs, not as a sudden miracle, but as a natural unfolding. My mother, understand, the universe is not ignoring you, it is responding to you. It is shaping itself to reflect your most consistent emotional tone. If you dwell in lack, even while desiring abundance, the universe hears the tone, not the words. If you say you are rich but feel unworthy, the feeling wins. That's why persistence matters. Every time you choose to return to the feeling of wealth, especially when everything around you contradicts it, you are sending a message of authority to life itself. And life listens, not because it rewards effort, but because it reflects identity. It is not difficult to persist once you understand the principle. It becomes a way of being. Just as you brush your teeth or get dressed, you begin each day by stepping into the state. You feel the feeling of already having. You think from the place of already being. And you do this not to get something, but because you know this is who you are now. And soon the outer world stops resisting. The cracks begin to show. The first opportunities emerge. The first signs arrive. And they are enough to tell you it's working. Keep going. Don't stop. Do not be discouraged by silence. Do not be swayed by delay. These are not signs of failure. They are the quiet space in which your new world is forming. Just because the tree hasn't broken through the soil doesn't mean the seed isn't growing. Your persistence waters the roots. Your inner certainty builds the structure. And when the moment is right, the evidence appears. And it appears so naturally, so logically, that it almost seems like coincidence. But it's not. It's the reward of your unwavering state, the reflection of what you chose to embody again and again, even when it felt invisible. There will be moments when doubt comes. That is part of the journey. But persistence means returning anyway. Not with panic, not with anxiety, but with a calm reminder, I know who I am. I know what I've chosen. I know what I'm creating. And in that return, the old state weakens. The cracks in the old belief system widen, and the new reality takes deeper root. You are not trying to become rich. You are being rich inwardly until life has no choice but to catch up. And it will, because that is the nature of law. That is the power of persistence. Persistence is not loud. It doesn't always come with fireworks or passion. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's just a whisper. Hold the vision. Sometimes it's choosing to smile when there's no reason. Choosing to give thanks before the blessing arrives. Choosing to walk with confidence even when no one else sees what you see. These small acts done repeatedly shape the course of destiny because they confirm your state. They signal that you are no longer asking. You are knowing. No longer waiting. You are living. And life must respond. So keep going. When nothing is moving, keep going. When the world calls you foolish, keep going. When the doubts whisper louder, keep going. Because every time you return to this state, you are writing the next chapter. Not with ink, but with energy. Not with effort, but with identity. And eventually the world will look at you and call it a miracle, but you will know better. You will know it was your persistence in assumption that turned the invisible into the inevitable. The moment you stop chasing is the moment everything begins to unfold. You have spent years running after love, after money, after recognition, chasing what the world told you would make you whole. You exhausted yourself trying to catch what seemed just beyond reach. And yet the more you chased, the more it evaded you. Not because it was impossible, but because you were operating under the illusion that what you desire is separate from you. You believed that you had to fight and sweat and beg to receive what was always within. Stillness is the key, and yet the world celebrates noise. Silence is the gateway, and yet we are taught to scream our worth. But true power begins in quiet realization that all that you seek already exists within the fabric of your consciousness, patiently waiting for recognition, not pursuit. You were never meant to chase, you were meant to become. What you desire begins the moment you stop trying to get it and start knowing it, not intellectually, but spiritually, deep within. When you stop moving in desperation and begin resting in awareness, the thing you were chasing turns and finds you. Because the chase is born of fear, but stillness is born of faith. And faith is the creative force of all reality. Every time you chase something, you affirm its absence. Every time you want it so badly that you cannot sit still, you declare to the universe that it is not yet yours. And so it continues to remain just outside your grasp, not because it is denied to you, but because you have denied yourself the stillness required to receive. To stop chasing is not to give up. It is not apathy. It is not surrender to failure. It is, in truth, the greatest act of creation. For only when you stop running can you stand where you are and declare it is already mine. And when you do, something shifts. A movement begins in the unseen. Life begins to rearrange itself in response to your inner knowing. The world must reflect the image you hold within. All manifestation begins with assumption, not effort, not struggle, not pleading, but inner assumption. The assumption that what you desire is already present, here, now, within you. To live from that place is to live in power. To stop chasing is to assume the role of the creator rather than the beggar. It is to walk as one who already has, not one who hopes to receive. Many will not understand this. They will look at your stillness and call it laziness. They will see your calm and call it delusion. But they do not know the laws that govern the unseen. They do not understand that nothing real is born in noise. All true transformation happens in the invisible realm of imagination, and it begins the moment you stop trying to force it and begin to feel it. Imagine, not with longing but with certainty. Speak not as one in need but as one in possession. Feel, not the lack but the presence. This is not about pretending, it is about knowing deeply, unshakably, that your inner world bursts your outer world. And until your inner world shifts, the outer will not. So pause, breathe, close your eyes, and feel what it's like to already be there, to already have what you once chased. Let it become so real in you that it no longer feels like a dream, but a memory. That is when the door opens. That is when life bends in your favor. Not because you chased it, but because you knew it. There is no need to run after what belongs to you. When you stop chasing, you begin attracting. When you stop seeking, you start aligning. And when you rest in the awareness of who you already are, the world responds with the reality that matches your truth. It begins not in effort, not in hustle, but in stillness, belief, and knowing. It begins the moment you stop chasing. The moment you begin to chase something, you announce its absence. You declare with your energy, your emotions, your thoughts that it is not with you, that it is far distant, perhaps even unreachable. Every time you chase money, love, recognition, or health, you are saying, I do not have it. And the world, being a perfect mirror of your inner state, reflects that belief back to you without error. You might chase for days, weeks, or years, but as long as you are chasing, you are not receiving. Because you cannot chase and receive at the same time. You are either moving in faith or moving in fear. You are either assuming possession or affirming lack. There is no in between. This is the contradiction that keeps many people stuck. They believe they are doing the right thing by striving, pushing, hustling, begging the universe for their desires. But beneath the surface of those actions lies a core belief that they do not yet have what they want. And so, despite all their efforts, the results remain the same. Nothing changes. Or if it does change, it comes with great difficulty only to slip away again, because the inner foundation remains rooted in lack. To chase is to live in a mindset that says, I must reach for it because it is not yet mine. It is a subtle but powerful message to the subconscious, reinforcing separation between you and your desire. And what you affirm consistently becomes your experience. The more you chase, the more you entrench yourself in the belief that you are without, and that belief becomes the soil from which your life grows. If the soil is filled with lack, the fruit it produces will mirror that condition. This is why so many people feel like they are running on a treadmill, expending energy but going nowhere. They believe they must keep chasing or else they will lose everything. But the truth is, what is meant for you doesn't run. It waits. It waits for you to stop running, to stop panicking, to stop doubting, and to finally know There is a sacred power in stillness, not the stillness of laziness or apathy, but the stillness of faith. A stillness that says, I know it is done. A stillness that doesn't flinch at appearances. A stillness that remains unmoved even when the outer world tries to convince you otherwise. Because that kind of stillness is not passive. It is an active participation in the creative process. It is the silent but strong declaration that you have already received what your heart desires, even if the world has not caught up yet. When you stop chasing, you shift your identity. You no longer see yourself as one in pursuit, but as one in possession. And this shift is not just psychological, it is spiritual, it is energetic. The vibration of chasing is frantic, ungrounded, desperate, but the vibration of having is calm, grateful, and magnetic. People can feel it, the universe can feel it, and the results respond accordingly. Think about someone who walks into a room with quiet confidence. They are not seeking approval, they are not begging to be seen, and yet everyone notices them. Their energy speaks before their words do. Why? Because they are not chasing attention, they are embodying worth. This is the same principle that applies to your desires. When you stop chasing them, you begin embodying them. You begin acting, speaking, thinking, and feeling as though they are already part of your life. And the world has no choice but to reflect that back. You were not created to beg for the life you want. You were not made to crawl toward your blessings as if they are reluctant to come near you. You are a creator, not a victim. And creators do not chase. They declare, they imagine, they believe, they feel, they dwell in the state of the wish fulfilled. And from that dwelling, all things begin to flow. But this can only happen when you stop reaching outward and start looking inward. Everything you want exists in the realm of consciousness. And until you claim it there, you will not hold it here. You cannot outrun your beliefs. You can try to build a life on effort and struggle, but if your inner world says, not yet, the outer world will always echo that signal. So you must turn inward, not to search for what is missing, but to know that nothing is missing. To see with the eyes of imagination, to feel with the heart of certainty, to speak from the place of already having. And this is where the journey begins. Not when you chase, but when you realize there's nothing left to chase. There's a moment in the life of every person who has ever manifested something great, where they stopped trying and started trusting. They let go of the frantic pace and rested in the vision. They let go of the need to force and began to embody the feeling. It is a quiet, almost invisible shift, but it changes everything. Suddenly, the same world that looked cold and closed off begins to open. Paths appear, opportunities emerge, the right people arrive. And it's not because they did more, it's because they aligned more. And alignment is impossible while you're running, because chasing takes you out of your center. It places your focus entirely on the outside world, on timing, on conditions, on other people. But creation doesn't happen out there, it happens within. The outer world is only a screen. The real movie is being played inside your consciousness. And until you change the film, the screen will keep showing the same story. You must learn to be still in the face of desire, to hold the feeling of already having it even when nothing has changed yet, to carry the emotion of fulfillment in a world that still shows emptiness. Because that is faith, that is power, that is creation, and that is where all miracles begin, not in the chase, but in the quiet decision to believe without seeing. To stop chasing is to step out of survival mode and into creative mode. It is to walk by inner knowing instead of outer evidence. And in doing so, you begin to rewrite your life not by force, but by frequency. You shift from asking, how can I get this, to declaring, I already am this. And that shift, though invisible to the world, is thunderous in the realm of manifestation. Everything begins to reorganize. Everything begins to respond. Everything begins the moment you stop chasing. Imagination is not daydreaming. It is not fantasy. It is the seedbed of reality. Everything you now touch, see, and experience was once imagined, either by you or by someone else. The house you live in was first a thought, the chair you sit on, the phone in your hand, the clothes on your body, none of it existed until it existed first in the mind. You live in a world of manifested imagination, and yet so few understand the power that lies within their own inner vision. The moment you begin to see your imagination as the true creative force, the rules of life change. You are no longer at the mercy of circumstances. You are no longer waiting for the world to bring you what you desire. Instead, you begin to understand that you bring the world what you hold within, that the outer is nothing more than a shadow of the inner, that your environment is only the echo of your imagination made visible. Most people imagine unconsciously. They imagine worst-case scenarios. They replay betrayals. They rehearse disappointment. And they wonder why their lives reflect fear, lack, and repetition. But imagination does not discriminate. It responds with precision. It brings forth what is consistently dwelled upon, whether it is wanted or not. It does not respond to fleeting wishes. It responds to deeply held assumptions. To truly create using imagination, you must feel it real. It is not enough to think about what you want. You must step into the experience of it within. You must engage the senses inwardly, hear the voice that congratulates you, see the scene that would play out if it were already true, touch the outcome with your heart, taste the joy of already having it. When your inner world becomes saturated with the feeling of fulfillment, your outer world cannot resist the transformation. The challenge is not whether the imagination works. The challenge is in using it deliberately, consistently, and with belief. Many will say, I tried to imagine, but nothing changed. What they mean is, I imagined once or twice, but my doubts outweighed my vision. The power of imagination does not bend to casual use. It responds to conviction. It demands persistence, not in begging, but in assuming, not in hoping, but in knowing. To live from imagination is to break free from appearances. It is to no longer accept the present as permanent. It is to see beyond what is into what can be, and then to live as if it already is. This is not pretending. It is not escaping reality. It is creating reality. You are not denying the facts. You are planting new ones. And like any seed, what is planted in imagination will break through into form if it is nourished with faith. Many misunderstand this and say, are you saying I should lie to myself? No. What is a lie is the belief that you are powerless. What is a lie is the acceptance that you must wait for permission to live the life you desire. What is a lie is that you are separate from your dreams. The truth is, your dreams are already within you. They are waiting not for permission, but for embodiment. And embodiment begins in imagination. The most powerful moments of change happen not when you do something different, but when you feel something different. When you begin to feel the life you want as though it is here now, you activate the law that governs manifestation. That feeling, sustained and alive, is the bridge between the invisible and the visible. It is not effort that brings things into form. It is feeling. Emotion is the language of creation, and imagination is the tool through which that language is spoken. When you were a child, you imagined freely. You became who you wanted to be in an instant. You played with invisible friends, created kingdoms in your room, and traveled worlds without moving your feet. The world called it fantasy, but what it really was creative power in its purest form. You were not concerned with how things would happen. You simply lived in the experience as if it were real, and that is the secret you must return to. Imagination is the return to your original state of power. It is not something you grow out of, it is something you must grow back into. Because every desire you hold is not a wish, it is a calling. And the moment you imagine it and feel it, you signal to life that you are ready, that you are no longer content with waiting or chasing, you are now creating. You may not see the result immediately, but just as you do not dig up a seed to check if it's growing, you must not uproot your vision with doubt. You must rest in the assurance that the process is working, even when it's invisible, especially when it's invisible, because imagination does not operate on your timeline. It operates on alignment. The moment your inner world is in harmony with your desire, the outer must comply. You cannot imagine abundance while constantly affirming lack. You cannot imagine love while dwelling in rejection. You cannot imagine peace while identifying with anxiety. The world outside will not change until the world inside does. And imagination is the canvas on which you must paint your new reality. Not just once, but again and again, until it becomes more real to you than the evidence around you. So each day, close your eyes not to escape life, but to create it. Enter the state of the wish fulfilled. Feel it with all your heart. Walk in it mentally, speak from it emotionally, act as though you are living it now, not to deceive yourself, but to awaken yourself. Because imagination is not about pretending. It is about remembering that you are a creator, and your inner world is the workshop of your destiny. When you fully accept that your imagination is not idle but divine, that it is the birthplace of your future, you stop waiting for signs and you start producing them. You stop doubting the path and you begin paving it with every thought you consciously nurture. The world bends not to those who chase, but to those who imagine. Faith does what force can never accomplish. You can push, hustle, and strive your entire life, but if your inner state is filled with doubt, all your effort will only exhaust you. Force is the product of fear. It is rooted in the belief that things won't happen unless you make them happen, by willpower, by action, by domination. But faith is an entirely different energy. Faith is rest in knowing. Faith is the quiet strength that says it is done, even when nothing has changed in the world around you. And from this internal knowing, all things begin to move. People often confuse faith with passive waiting. They believe that having faith means sitting idly by while the world changes around them. But true faith is not passive. It is deeply active. It creates. It radiates. It carries a frequency so strong, so clear, that the world responds not out of obligation, but out of alignment. Faith doesn't beg or hope, it knows. And in that knowing, it magnetizes the things you once tried to force into your life. Force wears you down. It is reactive. It needs constant effort to maintain results. It turns your desires into burdens, your dreams into demands. But faith is effortless in its movement. It flows. It doesn't chase. It attracts. Because when you truly believe that something is already yours, you don't feel the need to prove it or force it into existence. You walk with a different energy. You carry yourself with the calm of certainty, and that calm is irresistible to life. Imagine two people desiring the same thing. One tries to make it happen by constantly acting, stressing, planning, and panicking. The other person imagines, believes, and moves from a place of inner peace. The first may achieve results, but they will come with great resistance and often fall apart when they stop pushing. The second person sees doors open naturally. Situations align, people appear, timing works in their favor. And the difference is not luck, the difference is alignment, the difference is faith. Faith is not blind, it is visionary. It sees beyond what is visible. It recognizes that the real world is not just what you can touch and measure, but what you can feel and know within. Force tries to change things from the outside in, but faith transforms from the inside out. And once the inner has shifted, the outer must reflect it, like a mirror responding to your expression. There is no other way it can be. You must ask yourself why you are forcing. Are you afraid it will not happen otherwise? Do you think life needs your panic in order to deliver your dreams? That belief itself reveals the absence of faith. You were not designed to panic your way into blessings. You were designed to align with them. Faith is trust in the invisible, and that trust becomes the substance of the visible. But it cannot be borrowed. It must be cultivated through awareness, imagination, and repetition. You cultivate faith by choosing again and again to believe the unseen over the seen. You don't wait until the outer world confirms your desire, you confirm it yourself. You declare it internally and hold on to that feeling even when appearances contradict it. This is the test, and this is the power. Faith doesn't flinch when things don't look right. It holds steady because it knows the truth is deeper than appearances. When you force something, you are saying, "This isn't mine yet and I have to earn it." When you operate in faith, you are saying, "This is already mine and I'm aligning with it." One lives in separation, the other lives in union, and only the latter produces lasting results. Because the world outside is an echo. It can only give you what you already carry inside. Think of the people you admire who seem to create effortlessly. They don't chase, they don't panic, they don't scream for validation. They simply believe. And their belief becomes a blueprint for reality. This is not coincidence, it is principle. They may act, yes, but their actions are not frantic, they are inspired. Their movements are not born out of fear, but from clarity. This is the way of faith. Faith also allows you to let go, not to abandon your desire, but to release the tension around it, to stop obsessing over how and when, and begin trusting that the process is working, even when it looks like nothing is happening. That kind of trust creates space for miracles. It invites the unexpected. It opens you to the grace that force shuts out. Because force is rigid, but faith is flexible. Force insists, faith listens. And in that listening, you often receive more than you could have ever forced into being. There is nothing more magnetic than a person who knows something is already theirs. They don't need to argue, compete, or prove themselves. They walk differently, speak differently, think differently. And that inner difference shifts the atmosphere around them. People feel it. Life responds to it. Doors open not because they were broken down, but because the vibration of belief unlocked them. So when you find yourself exhausted by striving, stop. Not to give up, but to remember the truth. You do not have to force what is already yours. You do not have to manipulate life into blessing you. You only have to believe, see, and feel the end result. And from that place move, not out of desperation, but out of clarity. Not because you need it, but because you know it. Faith is the greatest creative force because it does not require physical evidence. It births that evidence. And once you begin living in faith, not visiting it occasionally, but dwelling in it, life begins to meet you in ways force never could. Synchronicities appear, resources show up, people call, opportunities land at your feet, and you realize that life was never resisting you, it was simply waiting for you to stop resisting yourself. You were created to move with faith, not fear, to align, not to force. And when you live in that truth, you become a vessel through which miracles flow, not because you chased them, but because you trusted they were already yours. Letting go is not weakness. It is not quitting. It is not giving up on what you desire. Letting go is alignment. It is the highest act of trust you can offer the universe, yourself, and the unseen intelligence that responds to your inner state. When you let go, you are not discarding your desire. You are releasing the tension that binds it. You are removing the barriers of need, of desperation, of doubt. You are making room for the manifestation to breathe. to unfold and to arrive naturally. Because what is truly meant for you is not earned through anxiety, it is revealed through faith and rest. So many people confuse holding on with being faithful. They grip their desires with such intensity that they squeeze the life out of them. They obsess, they panic, they try to control every variable. They live on edge, fearing that one wrong move will ruin everything. But that is not faith, that is fear in disguise. And the truth is, what you grip out of fear, you repel. What you try to dominate through control slips further from your grasp. Because you are not meant to manipulate the how, you're meant to embody the now. You're meant to live as if it is already yours, not wait anxiously for a sign that it might be. Letting go is the moment you shift from chasing to receiving. It is the energetic pivot where you stop identifying as the one who lacks and begin embodying the one who has. It is a surrender, but not the kind the world teaches. It is not a surrender of hope, it is a surrender of resistance. You stop pushing against the current and allow yourself to flow with the stream that was always carrying you forward. You stop insisting that the desire must appear in this specific way at this specific time, and instead declare, I trust that it is done. I trust that what is mine is finding its way to me now in perfect order. Letting go does not mean you stop caring, it means you stop fearing. You stop doubting. You stop trying to force reality to comply with your limited perception. You realize that your role is to imagine, to believe, to feel, and to rest in that knowing. That the greater part of creation is invisible, subtle, and beyond your conscious control. You do not have to see the mechanics behind the scenes. You only have to know that they are working in your favor. The flower does not struggle to bloom, it opens in its time, and the same is true for your desires. There's a kind of peace that only comes when you finally let go. It's a silence that fills the space where anxiety once lived. You stop rehearsing conversations. You stop checking the clock. You stop wondering when and how and if, because something in you has settled into knowing, into awareness, into the realization that you are not missing anything. You are becoming it. And that becoming is enough. It is enough to shift the world around you, not by force, but by frequency. Many people live their lives constantly asking, what should I do next? But the real question is, who am I being right now? Because action without alignment leads to frustration. But when you let go, you give yourself the gift of alignment. You return to the present moment, where all power resides. You feel again, you imagine again, you trust again. And from that space, action flows effortlessly, not because you must, but because it is inspired. It comes not from fear, but from clarity, not from lack, but from truth. Letting go is not about losing the desire, it is about losing the desperation. Desperation comes from believing you are separate from what you want. But letting go declares that you are already connected, that the bridge has already been built within you, and now you are simply allowing the outer world to catch up. You move through your days with quiet confidence. You speak from fulfillment. You dream without begging, and the universe feels that. Life always mirrors the energy you carry, and when you let go, you carry the energy of peace. There is a magnetic power in peace. It draws to you effortlessly what you once struggled to attain. Because peace is the signature of faith. It says, I have already received, even if I haven't touched it yet. And that vibration is irresistible to the forces that shape reality. The universe is not moved by panic, it is moved by presence. And presence only comes when you let go of the need to constantly control the outcome. You do not have to know every step. You do not have to have every answer. You simply have to feel it real, trust the unfolding, and let go of the urge to force it. This is not laziness. This is mastery. This is creation in its purest form. The tree does not worry about when the rain will come. It does not panic about when the sun will rise. It trusts the process, and in that trust it grows. You too are designed to grow this way, from within, from faith, from alignment. And when you let go, something else happens. You become available, available to receive, to see opportunities, to move with ease instead of resistance. You become less reactive to delays, to obstacles, to opinions, because your inner world is not shaken by the outer. You have already decided inwardly that it is done, and from that place, everything becomes possible. Letting go is the final step before manifestation appears, not because it is the end of your desire, but because it is the beginning of its realization. It is the moment you stop looking outward and start trusting inward, the moment you stop fighting life and start flowing with it, the moment you declare that what is meant for you will not pass you by, not because you chased it, but because you aligned with it. You knew it, you felt it, you believed it, and then you let go, not to lose it, but to live it. Here is the conclusion of the entire speech. Neville Goddard. It all begins the moment you stop chasing, with a strong and final message, written up to 600 words. Now, take a breath. Let everything you've just heard sink in, not as theory, not as philosophy, but as truth, deep, eternal, personal truth. You've been taught your whole life to run, to strive, to hustle, to chase after what you want, as if it were hiding in some far-off corner of the world. But the truth is, what you've been chasing has never been outside of you. It has always been within. The moment you realize that, your entire life begins to shift. You don't need to wear yourself out trying to convince life to bless you. You don't need to prove your worth or scream louder than your fear. All you need is stillness. Not the stillness of passivity, but the stillness of certainty. The quiet, unshakable knowing that what you feel inside becomes what you see outside. That you do not manifest by desperation, you manifest by embodiment. You are not here to chase life, you are here to remember that you are life. That everything flows from you. That you are the root, not the result. When you stop chasing, you make room for the thing you've wanted most to finally find you. Because the energy of chasing declares, I don't have it, but the energy of alignment says it is already mine. That subtle shift creates a monumental difference. Let this be the moment you release your grip, not on the dream, but on the fear. Let this be the moment you stop living like a beggar and begin walking like a creator. Imagine again. Feel it real again. Trust again. Not because of what you see, but because of what you know. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to trust. You are allowed to believe that life supports your vision, that the universe is not your enemy, that the things planted in your heart were not accidents, they were instructions. You are allowed to stop running and start receiving. Letting go doesn't mean you stop wanting, it means you stop suffering, it means you stop doubting, it means you start living now as if it's already done. Because the greatest proof of belief is action, and the highest form of action is peaceful alignment. That is the faith that moves mountains. That is the power that reshapes reality. So if you're tired, rest. If you're afraid, surrender. If you're waiting, release the weight of time. You don't have to chase what's already yours. You only have to become the version of you who has it, feels it, knows it, and then let go. And in that letting go, in that sacred silence, in that calm declaration of I am, you'll find everything you once thought you had to pursue. doesn't begin when the money arrives. It doesn't begin when the relationship manifests. It doesn't begin when the door finally opens. It begins the moment you stop chasing. And in that moment, you realize it was never running from you. It was waiting for you to remember who you are.